Hey guys, my name's Wilbur and welcome to Creator Showcase, where we try to find your next favorite content creator. My guest today is a good mate of mine. He's one of the people that I've found on Twitch that's doing some really interesting things with the platform. He's self-proclaimed King of the Goths, and he's my good mate. It's RichieTwoTeas. Richie, how are you today, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's quite early in the morning here, so I'm not 100% awake, but
Yeah, I
I'm
always find
keen and ready to go.
yeah, it's always interesting because it's always like, I'm always wrapping up for the night just as you're rising, so it's always interesting chatting with you. Now, Richie, you're a full-time streamer. You're a variety slash Soulsborne streamer. However, you do some really interesting stuff as far as content creation goes, which we'll get into a bit later. How'd you end up getting into the Soulsborne series?
I mean, I played Demon Souls actually on PS3 when it not too long after it came out. I'd heard a lot of buzz around this kind of cult. It's like it was almost a cult game from the start,
Hmm.
you know, and it got getting no media attention really,
Hmm.
apart from I saw an article talking about it saying, here's this incredibly difficult, basically sort of like physical AAA kind of release, but it's off everyone's radar, but it's got seems to be developing a real cult following. So I bought it and I played it and I really loved it, but ended up getting weirdly intimidated out of the game because I was reading so much stuff about oh, because the way the games work, if anyone doesn't know, you go around and you're the games are very uncompromising,
Hmm.
so it's quite easy to die. When you
Hmm.
die, you leave your XP behind on effectively on the floor, and you respawn. And if you don't get back to where you were and pick it up, then you lose it. So you lose that progress.
Hmm.
And then in Demon Souls, when you die, you lose half your health as well when you come back. Not
Really?
you don't have less than half health, but yeah, you've only got half your health of when you're in sort of like your can't remember what they call it in Demon Souls. In
I
other
didn't
like
know
one of the
that
other Souls
mechanic.
games, you're like in human form or you're embered,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that mechanic from the
and
Soul
yeah, and
series.
yeah. So you've got half health after you've died, and you've got to get back in and get your sort of XP. And I was dealing with that okay, but then people saying the game gets so much harder as you go on, and I kind of got just I was like, oh, I'll never do it, and I just started to play other games a little bit, and then I left it entirely. And then I think I tried to come back and play Dark Souls 1 because that was multi-platform, and that got a lot more buzz, and a friend of mine was really encouraging me to play it, and it just didn't click. I think I was burnt out on sort of dark fantasy, really, probably at that point, because dark fantasy is what I've really been into forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd hit a point, I was like, oh, all I've ever been into is dark fantasy. I need a break.
Mm.
And then a friend of mine, a couple of years later, he played through Dark Souls 2 and absolutely loved it. And this is like my sort of number one gaming buddy. We always played everything together. And then he went back and he played Dark Souls 1 and loved that too. And I was like, oh, I feel like maybe I'm definitely missing something here. And I really wanted to go back and try and get back into uh into the Souls games like properly, because I'd loved what I'd done played with Demon Souls. I'd probably done 18 hours, you know. Um, then we had PS4 release and got caught up with all that. Then Bloodborne came out, which is effectively, a Souls game masquerading in a Cthulhu-esque Victorian Gothic horror outfit.
Mm.
And I'm like, right, this is going to be the one that, obviously early in sort of PS4 console generation, there weren't tons of games out either. I'm like, but yeah, a Sony game from Soft, a genre that I really wanted to try. So I bought Bloodborne and I put a lot of time into that game and I loved it. It clicked immediately. I loved the aesthetic. I loved that the combat was fast and visceral and rewarded aggressive play.
Mm.
And and this is what I like about the Souls games in general, the Soulsborne games. They're really uncompromising, but they're incredibly fair. So if you die, it's your fault very clearly, and you can tell why. It's not cheap like some games can be when they're trying to give difficulty. There's a almost like a rhythm to every attack in the game, and if you
Mm.
kind of learn the rhythm, you know it's like with the boss on other games, like the attacks can feel so random, and you're like, right, I've got to wait till this bit comes in, and there's an inconsistency between the timings of your dodging or your blocking or whatever you're doing in other games. In Soulsborne games, it feels like there's a beat, and this is the best way I can
Yeah,
describe it. There's a beat to the way all the attacks come in, and it's consistent with every attack in the game. Yeah, a boss might do like a big 4-hit combo, and there's like a big delayed one at the end, but it all feels like there's a rhythm. There's an interesting video I watched a long time ago, probably a couple of years ago now, about music and rhythm in the Soulsborne games, which is what makes me think of it like this. Um, and yeah, I was just absolutely in love. But then I was able to go back, and I went back and I played Dark Souls 1 and I played Dark Souls 2. I went back and played Demon Souls. And then Dark Souls 3 came out. And, I loved all of those games and I was really into them.
for sure.
And, but they were just games that I'd played a couple of times. Like I play a lot of games that I love. It was playing them on Twitch where it's the community around the games. Because one of the things that makes the game special is it's kind of most people's playthroughs are a community collaboration,
Mm,
because you're not quite sure where to go, you're not quite sure how something works, you're struggling a bit with like a certain boss, you want to know if there's some tricks or tips or something, or whatever it is, you want to build for a character. And there's like messages in the game that are on the floor that other players can leave, that can give
yeah,
advice or
that's a really
not be
interesting
useful
mechanic as
sometimes.
well.
You can summon other players to help you. You can be summoned to help other players
Mm,
in their world as well. And there's PvP as well where you can
yeah,
be invaded.
it's a
So
very sort of full experience, and very, like you said, very
mm,
uncompromising, but very very interesting, and yeah, a very full world in that sense. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean when the game Dark Souls 1 was being reviewed, you had all these reviewers who had never played a Souls, for they hadn't played Demon Souls because so few people had.
Mm,
And they're trying to review this game but in isolation when no one else had played them. And the game that they were playing at the time, it was unpatched and it was harder.
mm,
Even like basically the launch version was quite a bit easier. And they all these journalists had this like basically massive email thread where they're trying to share tips and advice, and and, and get through the game for review,
yeah,
and they were loving
right.
it. And it's like the most unique experience they've ever had. And
Totally.
there's a really good book, the name of which escapes me just now, where that's one of the things that's talked about in it. It's written by a couple of games journalists,
Interesting.
but and it's a really good mirror for how a lot of people's playthroughs went down over
Mm,
time, I think. Yeah, there's a lot that
interesting.
makes the game special. But the reason I played on Twitch, that I got so into it, was playing on Twitch, is there's that community and that communal spirit, having all been through it, having all had to help each other through it. And that kind of gives you a special bond. And that's what makes the Soulspawn community on Twitch so special, and why it's such a great set of games to play, and why they still have a really long shelf life and a lot of viewers today.
Absolutely. And you've done a number of speed runs within the Soulsborne series, but you've got a bit
Yeah.
of a history with speed running. What game did that sort of start with?
Well, I suppose really, when I if I really think about it, going back to when I was a kid in the 80s, um, we'd have our our Spectrums, and then we had like our Ataris, we had the NES and everything. But there would be a lot of those games are incredibly hard, but there might be a level, like the first level on Super Mario Brothers, or even a game that you could complete pretty quickly when you actually learnt it. And we would race each other like friends. We would time each other for who could get through the level the quickest or whatever.
That's really
That kind of little
cool.
bit of competition. But speed running properly, I was playing Mass Effect 3, and I loved the multiplayer on that.
Mm,
It's one of the best like co-op multiplayers there's sort of ever been. And it's way too much under a lot of people's radar.
interesting.
Um,
Might be a hot one to
but
check out if you're into speedrunning or into co-op play.
yeah, but I was playing on the hardest difficulty. There was 3 difficulty levels: that bronze, silver, and gold. I was playing a lot on gold, and most people you run into in like public lobbies are pretty terrible. So rather than just go, I'm a good player at this, I go, how can I be a better player so I can carry these people through? So I started going to YouTube and watching videos, and I went to like BSN, the Bioware social network that existed at the time, where there was forums, to see what advice I can get and everything. And I found videos on YouTube of people speed running like gold for Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. And then there were people posting their videos up and challenge runs and stuff they were doing. They were going in solo instead of like with 4 people. And someone posted up, on Xbox, they'd done a speed run and they posted up, if anyone's interested in learning, I'm happy to maybe jump in and show them. And so many people were saying, yes, please teach us, because there was grind to the game for unlocking items. So I think people were going, yeah, if I learn to finish this quickly, I'll earn more currency and I'll be able to get more unlocks and get better
Mm,
weapons and stuff.
mm.
And the guy said, oh, he's called Alex, and he said, I'll set up a group. I'll set up a speedrunning group. And so we did. And I was one of the first people to join up. Thought, oh, I'll give it a go. I want to learn how to play better. And basically straight away, he invited me to play with him and a couple of other his friends, and we just hit it off immediately. And he goes, you're really good. And I was
Totally.
suddenly in their sort of attempts for trying to break the world record for the fastest completion.
Wow.
And it went from there with that game, and that's obviously multiplayer. And I've always been more of a multiplayer gamer probably than I have a single player gamer. And
Interesting.
I'm gonna add a caveat to that, like a codicil, which is, even like my single player gaming was multiplayer, because so much growing up was couch co-op with friends.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
might be sat there playing whatever's the latest game, but there's friends there watching me. I'm playing Ocarina of Time, and they're like, you should try this.
Mm,
Have you gone there?
yeah,
And then they would
absolutely.
be on too, So it's a very gaming is as a shared experience rather than probably like, multiplayer. It's a
Absolutely.
social
I think
social
anyone that
game.
grew up with consoles, or whether they were early or like more recent, even the younger
Mm.
generation that's coming up now with gaming, is it's great that there's probably, I've kind of moved away from it a bit as far as moving to PC and whatnot. That direct kind of, couch co-op, as you said. But
Yeah.
it's great that you're absolutely right. It is such a shared experience, and it's so great that consoles still really encourage that in a way that PC gaming just and sort of just doesn't. Um,
Yeah.
you've been a full time streamer for a while, yeah. How long exactly have you been a full time streamer for?
I'd probably say I've been a full-time streamer for 2 years,
Right
and
on.
I've been streaming like on this account in this kind of go for nearly 3 years now, and just off 3 years.
Amazing. And
Uh,
and sort of what was the sort of the defining factor that sort of led you to going full time?
well, I've always worked generally for other people. I did have a catering business that myself and a friend had we had for quite a while. That was in addition. That was never full time. That was in addition to whatever other jobs we had.
Hmm.
I'd hit a point where I'd been quite unwell with anxiety, and I'd been made redundant, and I didn't want to go back and work for a big company again. I felt I'm fed up of making money for somebody else, and I thought I'd rather make money for my maybe less money, but I'd rather make it and it all for me, or something that's a bit better for the soul, maybe something that's um I don't know. I don't want to I'm not saying every job's evil, but
No, I think
you,
there would
you,
be a lot of people
like you
that
can,
relate to you though in that
yeah,
sense.
I can make the right decisions. That's not just about making money. Sometimes, no,
Absolutely.
there's that slight ethical conflict you can sometimes have, like with your own principles and the principles of the company.
100%.
But I don't want to go back and work for a big company again. I want to be my own boss. So I actually tried to start up a business where I was upcycling furniture and making furniture from recycled materials like old pallets or whatever. And I was never really had that much of a chance to get too far into that. You know, had like the workspace set up in the garage, and I had a lot of the stuff, and I started to source stuff, and I'd done some little bits and pieces.
Mm.
But I also had been wanting to stream, and all that year I'd been streaming, and I it's not like I set out with my streaming to get really big and earn money or anything. No, where you can earn money, I could be really big potentially. I don't know.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
that I was thinking I'm ninja or anything, but and I stream for a lot of the first half of the year to basically nobody because there's no discovery on Twitch. So you're playing a game and either no one else is looking to watch that game because it's an old game like BioShock, or it's a popular game and you're right at the bottom and
hmm
no one's ever going to find you.
Mm.
So that was my year. And then I no, probably August of 2018, I was playing Neo, the first game, and it looked like another pretty dead game. But there was actually a lot of people that really liked that game. Much smaller than like Soulspawn, but very much a similar thing to Soulspawn games. And there was 20 people that watched that game, and then they all watched me out of all the streamers, the 10 streamers that were streaming it, because I was the most entertaining and the most compelling for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I took that, then I could take those 20 people when I went back and started playing other games. And then I went and started doing some Soulspawn challenge runs. And at that point, I was bringing in, through subs and bits and some donations, I suddenly was bringing in like way more money than I was getting from doing my other
With the
work. And I'm
business.
like, I wonder what I could do with this.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I loved Twitch. I loved the meeting people. I love the friends I make. I like the fact that I never knew what was going to happen on any day, whether that's like what's going to happen with the game, who I might meet, whether I'm going to get a big raid,
Yeah.
and at that time it was particularly exciting because I didn't know anybody really on Twitch. Quite
Mm.
often a lot of my friends who started streaming on Twitch, they were parts of communities and then they were encouraged to, and then they kind of had their a little audience out on day one or whatever. I came in knowing nobody on Twitch. None of my friends watched Twitch or
Mm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, suddenly it was just exciting, and that's why I started. But I wasn't working basically, and I was streaming, and I started to earn some money on Twitch. I
Amazing.
never set out to, you know.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's a fantastic story. I love to hear it, like turning something around, what you thought you were going to be doing as sort of like your own paved way. And then like, life's like that, man. You never know with this
Yeah,
stuff, do you? So we've talked about it before because, we talk quite a bit, Richie and I, about the
we're
industry
good
and
at
about,
talking.
we're very good at talking, very good at talking.
Mm.
And in those chats we've talked about sort of you having your so you were streaming games and whatever, and then you sort of had this moment of fruition where you started doing what you sort of labeled as like Richie content, which was sort of getting down to your personal style of content and the content that I as a viewer like passing through your channel one day, with my background in performing and whatnot, found really interesting. And I just like, could you quickly sort of summarize that sort of content, or the sort of the format in which you do it?
I don't know. I don't really think about it about
Mm,
what it is or how it's defined. I mean, the way I sort of think of it in terms of like working it is I have segments.
mm,
I don't know. It's difficult because I don't have like a structure for the way that I come up with things. Things tend to happen quite organically or quite just random ideas pop out of my brain. I suppose there's things that are like instantaneous hits, which might be something. I tend to have audio and visual elements of both, to
mm,
everything that I do. So it could just be I photoshopped a silly photo
mm,
and I've got like a sound effect that plays and it's something that's like bam, a quick hit. Pretty standard meme fare, but then I have my
mm,
longer form content, and that might be that'd be like a character potentially. But everything that I do's got a thing that I do. So I've got a character, and they're there to answer a problem. I've got someone asked me an opinion on something. I've got a character that I could drop into because sometimes like opinions can be controversial. Obviously, you
mm,
know. And I wanted like a mechanism to say, all right, I want to maybe talk about something controversial. But I
mm,
want to phrase it in such a way that's not necessarily going to cut off debate,
mm.
that's going to let me have a good say. But maybe it's going to be something that, rather than kick off like a big argument between a lot of people maybe who are watching me, it's gonna, everyone's gonna be amused enough or whatever, I suppose.
Yeah, frame it in a lighter way,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and the character creation I think is a really interesting
Mhm.
aspect to that. And I think that was the sort of the first time that I'd seen character in other streams and whatnot. It was the first time I'd sort of ever really seen it used in that segmented way, where you have these like sort of 4 or 5 very clearly distinct characters amongst your other segments. And yeah, I just found it really interesting, and I'd recommend you all go take a look at Richie's channel and see what he's doing over there, because it's some quite interesting stuff. Now, as I mentioned, we talk quite a bit, and it's no sort of secret or anything. Is you mentioned it before. You struggle with anxiety and some mental health issues, as I'm sure a lot of viewers and a lot of us as just human beings do. But yeah, you've suffered with it for quite a while, and it's sort of led you down some different paths in life as far as that goes. How does that? How do you sort of find that interacts with streaming?
Well, it's not always helpful.
Mm.
Um, every day it's a battle to go live, and as a full time streamer, there's obviously there's a pressure to, keep the lights on. And just anyway, you want to, as a content creator, as a streamer, I want lots of people to see what I do, and I hope they're going to love it, and I hope I'm going to grow. But all of these things, they very easy to, you know think negatively about, and they can put a lot of pressure on, and that's, the things probably everyone can be a bit anxious about. And then when you suffer from anxiety too, and you know and I do suffer somewhat with, like, with general sort of anxiety disorder. For me, it's social anxiety, and that's, the bigger problem. And it doesn't really, for me, manifest itself so much when I'm actually streaming. So you would think that I'm there with lots of people watching me.
Hmm.
That would be a really bad situation. It's not. I've always felt, and I've been diagnosed with, like, sort of the anxiety for, I don't know, 5 years maybe. But I've always had it. People said I was shy, but I was always shy. But I would get up with my band and I would play on stage and I would love it. I can get up in front of people and do a reading or do a presentation with no worries. Yeah, I'm nervous before I do it. I think we're all nervous before we do it.
Absolutely, one
But,
hundred percent.
but the sort of situation where I would be shy, or what was obviously me really struggling, was I'm at work and I go to a meeting and I don't know anybody there, or I'm on a course and I don't know anybody. I'm in a shop and I'm just walking down the aisle and I don't know anybody there. And, they're brushing past you, or they're asking you, they ask you a question. It's that kind of, almost like it's when I don't know people that's particularly bad, or when I'm in a situation where I'm not in control.
Mm.
Whereas when I'm on stage, everyone's here
Absolutely.
to see me. You
Yep.
know, if I'm standing up to give a speech as the best man at a wedding, everyone's there for a great day. They're excited. They might not know me, but they love the couple and they want the day to be brilliant and they want a great speech, and they're going to give you so much rope to hang yourself on. You can do a terrible speech and they'll love it. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
there's no pressure, and that's great. And and
Fantastic.
and when I'm live on stream, it's my stream and people are there and they're watching me because they like me, and that's a surprising lack of pressure. And I But it's all the stuff around. I get a message from somebody,
Mm.
or I'm getting a raid from someone I don't know. Um, there's the networking side of Twitch where you're getting to know other streamers, you know, and you're making new friends in other places. That's really hard for me to do. Some people find it really easy. They go out, they just chat, go into a stream, they chat, they make friends with the streamer and the community really easily, with no worries. And then I struggle with that. I struggle going into my friend's streams and chatting. I can sit in a friend's stream, for 20 minutes before I can get over my anxiety enough to talk in a way that, you know, seems so alien to people that see me stream.
Yeah,
But
that's a really interesting like insight to that, I guess, because yeah, you would imagine it's a lot. Social anxiety would manifest itself when you're in that space, but I totally understand, you know, coming from a
obviously, yeah. So in a situation like that, I'm obviously here in a room by myself,
mm,
and it's hard to come out of my shell to some degree when I'm here. I've got to kind of get out and then in. Whereas if I was like sat in a room with two other people, if I was at work with two other people, we are all skiving off work and watching Twitch, I'd probably find it a lot easier because I'm already
mm,
feeling, you know, bouncy enough and chirpy, and you
yeah,
know, I've already had to start tackle the anxiety and put it back in its box a bit because I'm at work with other people.
mm,
Whereas I'm here a lot just by myself. So
yeah. Thanks for talking to that. Um, Richie, we are running out of time, but I do just have one question for you, which is if you
yeah.
had one piece of knowledge to pass on to new streamers, or one piece of advice to pass on to new streamers, what would that be?
I mean, I could give you so much advice to a new streamer. So the things I would generally say is a lot of people have you're probably thinking about how a stream will go. You might watch bigger streamers or whatever, or even people like me who aren't that big, and you think, yeah, I'll give that a go. You may think it can't be that hard. It'll be all right. Streaming is a lot harder than you think it is. Certainly, probably to start out. Some people won't find it. That there's always people that are natural, whatever they do. They can just sit and play games and talk. But to actually be entertaining to other people is hard, but it just takes a bit of time.
Mm,
You know, no practice, and like with any skill, you'll get better. You can't pick up a guitar and play a song the first day, but after a week, you can practicing a bit every day and a bit of learning. You can probably turn out something quite passable, and it's quite surprising. So keep at it, keep practicing. You know, don't let those initial bumps stop you, but also go and watch your your VODs, your streams, archive them and go and watch them and think about it and go, if I was a viewer and I'd found this streamer, what do I think? And maybe that's God, the mic's terrible, the webcam looks awful, there's big bits of silence. I know some people when they start streaming, they can you can sound very artificial because you're trying so hard to talk and be entertaining. You're not very natural. This is something that I struggled with for a long time, much to my surprise. You know, as someone who's quite good at talking and performing, you know, I found it really hard to translate. So yeah, that's my general advice for actually starting. And then the other thing I'm going to say is if you want to grow and you like it, it's very hard to grow just if you're only doing Twitch. Go and do things on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and I don't know, LinkedIn, anywhere, Facebook. Go and do lots of stuff elsewhere because you'll probably, you know, generate far more growth by doing all of those things. And that's exactly what we've not done. And no, and that's the biggest at this point where I am. It's like probably the biggest thing if I could go back and tell myself what you need to be doing and what you need to change. Yeah, go hard on other platforms too. And it's a lot of work if you're doing that as well. But that's up for you to decide if it's worth it, I suppose.
absolutely. I think that's a lot of really good points in that, and it was quite succinct. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us for this first episode of Creator Showcase. I
A
wanted to
pleasure.
say, yeah, thanks so much, Richie, for being here. And tune in next time for the next episode. Awesome. See you later.